All right, folks, it is January 6th, 2025. And of course, that means that a lot of things are going on in the world as always. And we'll be reporting on those in this edition of World Edition. So we'll definitely be keeping you informed of a number of the things going on, including the fact that there's a lot of weather, including rain here in this part of the United States. And I know in other parts, there's a lot of even snow and things like that. But definitely, the weather is one of the topics that people are talking about in the news, but they're also talking about the fact that Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau is set to resign as a party leader as the polls numbers plummet for him, according to reports. So that's something that is going on. So it looks like he's expected to step down as the Liberal Party leader. So we'll see how this all goes as he's to announce his resignation as early as Monday. And the Austrian far right may rule for the first time since World War II. So far right gets a chance to form government in Australia. Far right Herbert Kickle gets his chance to form a government in Australia. And looks like the Austria coalition talks collapse, raising that prospect for a far right Freedom Party and all along those lines, or raising the prospects for the far right Freedom Party, I should say. And a UK leader hits back at Elon Musk lies over handling of child sex abuse scandal. So UK Starmer slams lies and misinformation after Elon Musk attacks. The child rape scandal dominating UK politics after Musk criticism and all along those lines. And Keir Starmer attacks spread of lies on grooming gangs as well. And Indonesia launches a free meal program to fight stunting. So Indonesia dishes out free first free meals and program targeting 83 million people. So it looks like they're kicking off the first free meal program for children and pregnant women, and they're starting that free lunch plan to boost health and education. North Korea has carried out its first missile launch test since Trump's election. So North Korea tests ballistic missile as Blinken visits South Korea. So North Korea fires its first ballistic missile in 2 months. And South Korean anti-corruption agency is asking police to arrest the impeached President Yoon. So that is something going on. So South Korean protesters are using U.S. flags and a pro-Trump slogan. So South Korea investigators are seeking extension of an arrest warrant for the president in that area. And Hamas is ready to free dozens of Israeli hostages, according to a report that is out. Israel mounts Gaza attacks amid efforts to restart ceasefire talks. And 11 women, 2 children, and 22 men are on the Hamas list of hostages that Hamas list of hostages doesn't confirm if they are alive. So leaked list names 34 hostages to be freed in the first stage of Gaza deal, even though Israel is denying progress. And ongoing of young people in Kenya is a sure recipe for anarchy, according to the Standard. And denial of abductions and killings is an insult to Kenyans, according to the Nation. And even the Reuters is reporting on this news, saying that Kenya police hid killings of anti-government protesters. And in a reversal, Musk trashes Farage, UK's anti-immigrant populist. So definitely, some folks are asking who is Rupert Loy, from hated football boss to Musk reform favorite. So Musk turns on UK politician Farage over jailed far right activist. So definitely a lot's going on, and Elon Musk is definitely playing a lot of news, or playing a lot of influence in a lot of parts of the world, and all along those lines. Israel pledges heavy punishment after gunman kills 3 in the West Bank. So 3 Israelis were killed in a Palestinian shooting attack in the West Bank, and an attack on an Israeli bus and cars in occupied West Bank kills 3 and wounds 8, according to the news that is coming out of Democracy Now! And dozens of dolphins and other marine mammals were found dead after a massive oil tanker spill in Russia. More than 30 dolphins have died since an oil spill near southern Russia, according to experts in that field. Russia warns of severe environmental damage as oil from the damaged tankers washes up on the beaches. So definitely that looks like that's going on. And of course, Zelensky is told how Lukashenko apologized for him in the first days of the war. And Zelensky says that Lukashenko apologized at the start of the war and suggested striking refinery in Belarus. So that's something else going on in the news as well. And some people are asking, what is human metapneumovirus? Metapneumovirus, because apparently there are cases surging in China, and some folks are wondering, should we be worried as well? And an ex chief scientist for the WHO says HMBV is nothing to panic about, and is listing precautions that folks can have as well. And they're saying that HMPV is not a mysterious virus. We see it every year, according to some of the doctors out there, and all along those lines. And the U.S. it says that the Lebanese army is struggling to uphold the ceasefire. IDF readies for a longer stay, and Israel and Hezbollah trade threats over the future of ceasefire as the deadline looms. So Israel warns that Lebanon truce could collapse if Hezbollah doesn't withdraw in the south. And South Korea extends its shutdown of the Muon airport due to a crash probe. So long before the Jeju air crash, South Korea rose to be a model of safety. And so definitely a lot of folks are paying attention to that, just like they're paying attention to what's going on in Ukraine as well. And Putin sends a top general to Kursk as Ukraine's NATO tanks roll in. So Russia's in Kursk region are shaken as Ukraine launches a new offensive. So definitely that war is continuing as well. And a country that Nick talks about quite a bit is Venezuela. And a Venezuela challenger is to meet Biden, putting pressure on Trump. So Venezuelan opposition leader who claims to have defeated Maduro is to visit the White House. Venezuela doubles down on the intention to arrest opposition leader who claims he defeated Maduro. So we'll see what goes on as the Venezuela opposition leader, Armando Gonzalez, embarks on an international tour. And heavy snow is disrupting flights in the UK and Germany. In the whole area of Wales, the snow and ice warning after a weekend disruption. And Britain faces snow and flooding as travel is disrupted. I have to see what the weather is like in Spain, where I know that Nick's at, and all along those lines, maybe they've got some snow as well. And it looks like Congress is to certify Trump's election win as a shadow of 2020 Capitol riot looms on, and all along those lines, but that is to take place later today, 4 years after his supporters invaded the U.S. Capitol. Trump is more powerful than ever, according to CNN. And Congress will be counting the electoral votes today to finalize Trump's victory. And then his inauguration will be in 2 weeks from now, on the 20th. And Winter Storm Blair brings heavy storms to the mid-Atlantic, including Baltimore and Washington, D.C. Winter storm causes massive flight and Amtrak train disruptions, snarling U.S. travel. So it looks like cities that rarely get snow are getting more than a foot in frigid Arctic outbreak. So definitely the weather is impacting folks even in this area of North America. Biden has permanently banned offshore drilling in 625 million acres of the ocean, making a Trump reversal difficult. So Biden is to ban offshore oil, gas drilling in vast areas ahead of the Trump term. So we'll see how that goes and whether there's any repercussions to that. And the feds revealed chilling new timeline of how the maniac terrorist scoped out the New Orleans kill zone. So New Orleans attack victim's fiance condemned security over security failings. And it looks like all of the 14 Bourbon Street terror attack victims have been identified. And Trump asked the courts to delay his Friday sentencing for his hush money conviction. So Trump's lawyers are asking the judge to halt Friday's hush money case sentencing while they appeal to block it. So definitely we'll see how that plays out as well. And Trump presses the GOP to swiftly send one powerful bill for his signature ASAP. So Trump and Republicans plot radical policy agenda in one big, beautiful bill, according to what is being said in The Guardian. And it looks like they're trying to see how they can pull off this historic legislation and all along those lines. So definitely be on in that space and in that kind of way. And like I said, a lot of snow in the United States. So that is definitely part of the news, as well as, of course, the continuing mourning for the loss of Jimmy Carter, National Day of Mourning for Jimmy Carter, what it means and what's closed. So Jimmy Carter's beloved Maranatha Baptist Church is to host his final farewell service and flags are flying at half staff across the country. So right now, I believe the body is still in Georgia, if I'm remembering correctly, and all along those lines. And Biden signs a bill to increase Social Security benefits for millions of public workers. So, but President Biden has signed the Social Security Fairness Act. So, millions of public workers are now set to receive Social Security benefits. So, definitely that's one of the things that are going on in the news and all along those lines. And as I keep going down the news briefs, I see that a lot of the news stories are about how snow is impacting various parts of the world, including over there in Ohio, in the Northeast, and a number of other places. But I've got Kim Calhoun, one of the founders of the network with me. She sounds like she's got a little bit of a cold. And I've also got Rick Rosner as well. So how is everybody doing and what's on y'all's mind? I said a lot of the things that are going on in the news in that news brief and everything. And we'll see if Nick or other folks join us. But definitely there's a lot of things that are taking place, including I was hoping Tasha would be here. The fact that it looks like Prime Minister Trudeau may be resigning later on today. So it looks like he may be stepping down as the leader of the Liberal Party in that part of the area. So, Rick, what are you thinking about this? And have you heard anything about this notion of...
My wife told me he's been in office, I guess, a dozen years. So this is a huge change. And I guess... is it part of, the world's governments moving rightward? I don't know. I guess so. But, Canada has, since we entered the Trump era, Canada's been less crazy than we are, right, at least. So I don't think there's going to be,
We'll see how that all plays out. Hey, Kim, one of the smaller countries in the world is actually doing something that I don't know why we don't do enough of it and everything. And I don't know if you heard me mention this, but Indonesia, and I know that is a smaller country, has given out their free meals in a program targeting 83 million people. And so they're kicking off a free meal program for children and pregnant women and everything. So I know we've got, even here in the United States, an issue with kids that are not getting enough nutrition and everything, but we're being beat in another category. It looks like a small nation of Indonesia is doing better than we're doing because they're launching a free lunch plan to boost health and education. So is it just me, or should we be doing stuff like this?
I think that there's a balance, because if you give way too much, then people don't learn how to acquire how to feed themselves. Mm-hmm. So I think that while you're feeding them, you need to teach them. One of the programs I've always liked is, teaching kids to grow their own gardens in school, right? And they eat from the garden at school, from the garden to the table. So I think that there's a balance. I think that they don't just need to be feeding people, but I think people can't grow and think and learn if they're hungry. So there is a balance there. So if you've got that many people in poverty, feed them, but teach them. And I think that is very important. I also think healthcare is very important, and it should be free. But I got to bail out for a second. There's an emergency.
No problem. Take care of your emergency.
Right, so I think we should give kids free lunch, free breakfast, regardless of ability to pay. I just looked it up, and a school lunch costs about $3. A school breakfast costs $1.75. So for less than $5 a day, you can make sure kids have adequate nutrition, which is, when you look at countries, like racists love to talk about the average IQs of entire countries, which is a creepy thing and is based on bullshit statistics, bullshit studies. But when you do look at countries where, kids have developmental, deficiencies, it's because of nutrition. You have, countries where, kids are on average like 6-8 inches shorter than we are. That's nutrition. And it's the same with their brains. You got to make sure kids are adequately fed for them to, grow up as healthily as they can.
And I think that that's part of the reason that Indonesia launched this program, because the article that I read talked about them basically doing it to avoid stunting. And I think that the stunting that they're talking about is what you're talking about, which is the growth stunting and all along those
When
lines.
you're stunting growth, you're also stunting growth of the brain to a certain extent.
Right. And that makes a lot of sense and everything. Hey, Jacoby, and then I'm going to get to the question I asked earlier before Sasha got here and everything. But what's your take on that? You are the parent of two school children and everything. And I was just saying that one of the news stories that I brought up is Indonesia is actually launching a free meal program to target 83 million people, including children and pregnant women. So, like I said, it's a much smaller country than us, but they might be doing a better job than we are in the sense of getting food to their young people and the folks that are in desperate need of it. So
they're not a lot smaller. We're a third of a billion. Indonesia is 280 million. So they're only 50. They're almost as big as we are.
Okay. Fair enough and everything. But what's your take about these kind of programs to help our children, Jacoby?
They're necessary. I mean, food insecurity is one of the biggest hindrances in education everywhere. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'm working on the program that I am. But yeah, food insecurity causes so many from, you cannot focus on learning math, financial literacy, English, Spanish, anything if you're trying to figure out where your next meal is going to come from.
That makes a lot of sense and everything. Hey, Sasha, the other story that I had mentioned earlier, and like I said, I'm glad you're here because I don't know as much about Canadian politics or even some other world politics as you do and everything. But I did see that it looks like Trudeau might be actually stepping down. And as I understand, you're not the biggest fan of Trudeau, just like you were the biggest fan of Trump either. So I just wondering your take on this notion that he may actually be stepping down later today, and what would that mean for the future of Canadian politics?
He's not going to be missed a lot, really. It's about time for him to resign because his rating is as low as you can imagine. And even his own party begs him to give up and just step down. And hopefully it will happen later on today. So there will be election. And hopefully a new leader will emerge. Looks like it's going to be progressive conservative Poilievre. And so far he looks pretty good. He's getting more and more popular. And maybe that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, we'll see if that happens or not.
I skimmed an article that says Canada's obligated to have an election by October, but they can call it for earlier.
Yeah, that's right.
They can have it earlier than that and everything along those lines.
And I hope you have it earlier, because there's nothing more miserable than campaigns that take a year.
No. In Canada, it's never happening like that. The campaign is very short because elections, sometimes in Canada, there are snap elections when, let's see, a leading party, let's see, for example, Liberals did it once quite recently when they had government, but they didn't have majority. And they figure out that they're so popular that if they will call snap elections, they will get majority. And that's exactly what happened. They got majority. And I'm not a big supporter of that because if you have already government and you control it, is it so important to have a majority or supermajority and have all this time and resources wasted for the election? And let's see if there is a 5 years period between elections, mandatory 5 years. It could be called earlier. You can win election without majority, and say 6 months later, when you feel that most likely you will get majority, so you call this election. That's very different from American elections, but that's Canada.
To go back to Indonesia, I looked up, there's a chart of child stunting, and nearly 1 kid in 3 in Indonesia has their growth stunted by inadequate nutrition, which makes it among the worst for that among Asian countries: Pakistan, India, Bhutan, the Philippines. And then, in some of the better countries, you got a quarter of across Asia.
Wow.
You've got and it sucks to be like, I'm not short, but I'm not as tall as I wanted to be. But like, it stinks to be like 5'4", 5'5" as a guy, in a country where the average height is 5'9" or 5'10". That would stink. It limits your all sorts of opportunities.
But I don't think that Indonesia they have average height 5'10" or near.
I don't know. But
No,
so
no, not in Indonesia. They are low rise people.
okay.
Actually, I was in Indonesia 30 years ago, and I must tell you that capital Jakarta is it's a phenomenal multinational megapolis with probably 10 million people or about there, and it shows as a very, very rich capital of supposedly rich state. Indonesia could be one of the richest countries in the world because they have
everything.
natural resources and everything.
Hey,
So
just really
they
quickly,
want to spend $30 billion to feed 83 million people. That works out to $400
right.
per person a year, which is $1 a day.
Yeah, bucket days is not a lot of money in terms of doing that, but we'll see how it works out and what they kind of food they provide them and everything like that. I did have a question coming back to Trump and national politics and how it plays into international. As I mentioned, and I know that when we talk about failed government, a lot of times one of the founders of this network, Nick Valveda, always points to Venezuela. And as I mentioned earlier, Kenya is going through some problems with their internal politics and everything like that. So my question to everybody here is, how much should, because they're saying that even Biden is being visited by the person that claims that he won, which is this Edmundo Gonzalez, as he's embarking on a international tour to kind of shore up support for
the guy
his.
did win. The guy frickin' won. He got more votes by a ton.
But my question is, how much should we interfere? And I'll bring back in Kim as well with other countries' politics. That was what my question is, because I'm sure that he's trying to get Biden to maybe say that he is the winner, and I'm sure he'll even be trying to get Trump to say something similar. And like I said, Kenya's got some issues. Actually, Miss Grace, who used to be on our show regularly and was in Israel for a while, I've now learned that she is in Kenya now and doing some of her religious work out of Kenya. I think her name was Ariana Grace or something like that, but she used to be a regular when we were IBM TV and everything. Y'all will remember her. She was the somewhat attractive young lady that would come out of Israel and everything like that. But I think you remember her, Kim, and everything. But I just learned that she's now in Kenya and doing some of her work in the Kenyan nation. So how much do you think we should interfere with other countries?
I think we need to work on our own country a lot. I think that our relationships with other countries are very important for international trade, international exchange of information. Global information is very important, global knowledge. But I think that we really need to just focus on ourselves first. One of the things I'm going to be practicing this year is something they teach us on the airplane every time I fly is, before you put that mask on someone else, put it on yourself first. Take care of yourself so that you are capable of taking care of others. And I think that we have failed at that. And that's why we're so much in debt right now. Well, besides the PPP loans that Trump handed out like monopoly money to everyone and held them no accountability whatsoever. And they didn't have to pay it back, not even taxes on it. So, and the, tax Trump laws of, that give 40% tax cuts to anyone earning over $400,000. I think that has hurt us tremendously. So I hope we focus on ourselves first.
Well, we can't flip Venezuela. I don't know that much about Venezuelan politics, but I assume the military is aligned with Maduro. We do have a 200-year-old kind of policy of we've been messing with South and Central America for since almost the founding of the country. And American companies, with the phrase banana republic, comes from the idea that banana companies would go into South and Central American countries and fiddle with their politics to make it friendly for American business.
So I just want to say, let's just be blunt and honest. I mean, the incoming administration headed by Trump will not work with Kenya.
Mm-mm.
He already called, he called the areas of Africa and where other minority individuals come from, S-hole countries. So do you think he's really, this man who's already put Stephen Miller, a well-known white supremacist, in his cabinet, he's going to work with black people? No, that's not going to happen. Elon Musk may come from Africa, come from South Africa, but he was a part of apartheid, which actually dealt with a lot of the racism that's out there. Then if you look at who Elon Musk is funding in Germany, the AfD, who has ties to neo-Nazis. So again, getting back to these S-hole countries, as this man called them, he's not going to work with them. And then if you talk about the South American countries, demonizing migrants that come from this area, he's not going to really work with them. He's just going to try and dominate them. He's just an egomaniacal individual.
Hey, Jacoby, along those same lines and everything, I see I got Steve here, and I was actually going to throw something to Steve about internet, because I know both you, Jacoby, and Steve are big fans of the internet, even though sometimes Nick argues against internet for all and everything. But the internet is also becoming a part of politics as well, because we know about that Russian internet incident where cables were cut, and I think some of those were internet cables. And now we're seeing that Chinese vessels have cut Taiwan's internet cable in an apparent sabotage. So is this going to be a new form of warfare, because a lot of people need access to the internet? So if you cut the cable, then you've also cut the line of communications.
Well, Happy New Year to everybody, and I'm only on for a few minutes. We have COVID restrictions after 5 years have been lifted, so when I come to work, we're not allowed to. So I'm on my early lunch break, but I'll be coming in when I can. But 10 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Friday, is going to be a bad time for me and my clients. But real quick, I want to wish everyone a Happy New Year, and I mean, real quickly, I will just say that. Cyber warfare and security of our data is really, really important. I know that Kimberly had asked this question to John Chambers as well, just even as we look at AI and things like that. And I think that the more and more that we depend on these technologies, the more and more we open ourselves up to cyber attack, and these systems can be weaponized. So I think this is going to be really important. There could be even potentially terrorist attacks. And we do pray for the families of New Orleans, but I think that cyber warfare is real. It's a significant threat, and all of us should be worried. Don't get on an open network when you're at the airport. Don't open up suspicious emails that come in because they look just like what you would do if you went to a Facebook site, Mark. And then the other thing I'll say is everybody's preparing for the funeral for President Carter. I know there's a controversy of flats at half-mast, but I think it's the right thing to do. And we'll be talking about his legacy. I did put a post up there. I know Kim saw the picture of me in college with him, but that was just really great. I think he was a president who used the presidency to do great things even after the presidency as a stepping stone, as Jim Laney from Emory would often say, who was president of Emory at the time. And I actually met him once. I was late. One quick story before I get into what I call Trump 2.0. I've been doing it on a WPTF, but I was late one day to class, and I was a really cocky collegiate tennis player, dating the prettiest and smartest girl in the class, who's now my wife, and I could do no wrong. And one day the president, he said, "Young man, I need to see you after class." And I struck my stuff up there, and I looked at him and I said, "Well, didn't you make mistakes?" And there was a moment of silence. People couldn't believe that I had the audacity to talk to a president like that. And he looked at me and he said, "No, I did not make small mistakes." He said, I worked 4 jobs while I ran my dad's farm. I'd get up at 4 a.m, and then I joined the Navy, and I graduated top of my class. I captained a submarine. I became a senator, got married, became governor, became president. And he says, don't be late to class again and don't make small mistakes. Well, I was late to class again and he expelled me from the class, which, what is the true reason why I'm usually trying to be on time. And then what happened is at graduation, he saw me and I didn't know him. I knew I knew one of his grandkids, and he was like, thank you for being on time, Mr. Rao. And he smiled. And that was the last time I ever saw Jimmy Carter. But he was a very rigid, structured man. He wasn't as laid back as everyone said. You don't come from where he came from. But then he gave his heart to the country. And then in terms of Trump, the final thing I'll say before I get it back to you is it's interesting. He's now changing his. I watched Kristen Welker's interview with Trump just last week before I was getting ready for a show on PTF. And what's interesting is that he's changing his tune now in Dreamers. He's saying that he would actually support a bipartisan bill to protect them because he thinks they bring value, and that he's just cracking down on deportation. But he is going to deport as many illegal immigrants as possible. He said he believes in separation of families, but that if the children are here, he would just have them go back with their parents. That you can't have that. He wants to keep Obamacare and make it better. So he's definitely scaling back on certain things. And he's also said he's in favor of a skilled immigration. It'll be interesting to see. I'd be curious to what Sasha thinks about a Ukraine deal. On some of the news shows yesterday, they sounded like there could be a deal in the making with, protecting Ukrainian security, guarantees of Ukrainian security, allowing Putin to save face and stop, since the ground games really killed his military. Economy's weakened quite a bit. And so anyway, it's going to be interesting to see. We're only a few weeks away what a second Trump term will be like. But Jacoby, I don't think it may not be as bad as we think. Maybe it will, but who knows?
Steve,
What Trump costs us is time. If he's running things, that's 4 years that we lose, that we're distracted by nonsense. I mean, COVID cost us a bunch of time in so some experts are saying that AGI, artificial general intelligence, AI that can actually think, is only 2 years away. And then in another 2 years, you've got artificial super intelligence. And America needs to be positioned to take the lead on that stuff, because we're up against India and China and Africa, not immediately, but Africa's a sleeping giant. Africa in 30 years will be the only continent where the population is increasing. And if we lose 4 years to dicking around on nonsense, that's a huge disadvantage.
So I was gonna
Correction, Rick. Trump is not running anything at all. Trump is not. And maybe this is for the better, because he will be inaugurated and he will go and play golf for the next 4 years. Maybe that's not so bad. The country is being now run by so-called Committee 20, which is headed by Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and other technocrats. These people have accomplished what about 30 years ago, I remember it was a joke, when Bill Gates became the richest man in the United States. So there was a joke that he's preparing a bid for US government. So obviously it was taken then as a joke, but it's not a joke today. With all their technological power, crypto, and other things, this Committee of 20, they didn't even purchase U.S. government. They didn't need to purchase anything. There is nothing to purchase except debts. So they're essentially assumed running the management of U.S. government without actually purchasing it. They don't need to purchase. They effectively run it. And that affects the domestic issues, the foreign policy issues, everything. So if you think that Trump will be gone in 4 years, which he will, but these people, they're relatively young, they're not going to disappear. And with their enormous wealth, that there are not enough trillions of dollars to figure out what is their combined wealth, they are effectively running United States of America, whether you like it or not.
Hey, Sasha, along
Well,
those same
just
lines,
to-
and then I wanted to hear from Jacoby and everything, but along those same lines, just really quickly, I read an article recently where some of those technocrats that you're talking about, their wealth has expanded very exponentially. I want to say that Elon Musk had went from like something like 70 billion to 300 billion or something like that. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was it
450
was a
billion.
sizable increase for not just Musk, but for Zuckerberg with Facebook, for Peter Thiel, for a number of folks. They showed the increase, and it's the increase that has happened over like the last several years and everything like that. But it's been over the last couple, I would say, with a big boost in everything.
So, just a quick few things. Great information about traveling, Steve. That is very true. Things that you really have to worry about. One of the biggest things is you can help yourself when you're traveling, especially now, if you can afford it, because not a lot of people can. One of the things, if you can't afford it, do a lot of the things of staying off the internet because you can't be tracked. But if you can't afford it, get yourself a VPN. There are multiple VPNs that are out there.
VPN.
Yeah, there. NordVPN is actually one of the better ones. There's IPVanish. There's IP Shark or VPN Shark. Tons of VPNs that you can actually utilize when you go to different places, even within the state, because there are states now. Rick, just to help you, when you go to Florida, Florida is banning porn sites, so you can actually use a VPN outside of the state to get to porn sites. So these things, VPNs are actually helpful things. They also protect where you're going and stuff. So use a VPN.
I think that's very important for future practices and promotion of use of VPNs. Steve, I have a question for you about the terrorist attack, or what they claim to be the terrorist attack in New Orleans. We don't really know the full truth. It was done with one person, but do you think he utilized the internet to find out where the weak spots and the openings were in the construction? Because they did have a lot of the columns down for reconstruction, and they did have police stationed at certain places. Do you think he accessed the internet in any
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I mean, I think that's a possibility. I think also for me, like, I would never be on the street at 3 a.m. And even if I was, you would assume that, nobody's going to come in at 3 a.m. So I think the lesson there learned is that, just be careful when you're, who would have thought 3 a.m, right? I mean,
so just to touch on that.
Site.
Yeah, he cased that site and actually.
He did though, I think.
So just to touch on that, Steve.
He had access to the police department's internet to know where they were going to block, because that's what they did. They said that they strategically set up their cars to block certain areas. And so he had to have known where they were going to be opened.
But you can see it too. They're prepping for the Super Bowl. They have metal bollards, which are, the big pipes that stick up out of the ground. They'd rip those out to do work on them and replace them with cones.
So they were prepping for more than the Super Bowl, because they actually had a college football game that they were prepping for before the Super Bowl.
The Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, the Sugar Bowl. That was the thing that they were prepping for to get ready, because that big game was coming on.
But I think that this man has
touch on that. Just to touch on the terrorist thing, this is why, Steve, I have to push back on you where you said it might not be as bad. I hope that you're right, but I disagree, because this is one of the prime examples of this man coming into office completely lying about a situation just to drum up some support for his people that he wants to put in.
I also want to add one more thing about our security. I want people to really look at this and pay attention, very careful. Okay, what happened should have never happened, because I think he broke into the databases. But the next attack, I will assure you, will not be ground. It will be drone.
Well,
there has been a lot of practices with drones. People are utilizing drones in and out. The next attack in a mass shooting of a big event will be drone use. And I think that our law enforcement needs to learn how to monitor the skies a little bit better.
Right.
Well,
Hey, real quickly, let me end because I've got to run. It's so great seeing everybody. I'll be back again probably this week sometime, and hopefully tomorrow evening on World Politics. And I'm looking to get back with David Walker about doing like a kickoff event on American politics. So Kimberly, I'll work with you on that. But Jacoby, here's the deal that's troublesome is that, the fact that he won not only the Electoral College, but the electoral vote, that the results are being certified today, and it's got to be painful for Vice President Harris to do that. He won fair and square. I mean, he won with a significant majority of this country's vote, and I think we can't say it. I mean, we know that he's committed crimes and lied, but he won. He won the presidency, not only the electoral vote, but the popular vote. There's no,
Steve,
I mean,
with what you're saying there, that means nothing.
He won. He's the president.
Who said who's
He
arguing
didn't
that
accept
didn't win?
losing last time, did he? Oh my God, we had the worst sore loser in the world, and we just elected him, I think, out of fear.
Yeah, but Steve, who's arguing that he didn't win?
Yeah, I guess you're right. We just have to deal with it.
No, but Steve, I am pointing out a fact to you that you don't want to accept. The man literally lied about.
Oh, I agree with you.
Listen to what I'm saying. He literally lied about the terrorist attack in New Orleans. He literally went out and said this was because of the border. This was a homegrown terrorist that actually was in our military. This was a man that had nothing to do with the border, but he went on a tirade saying that it was because of this and it was because of that. He literally lied. So my point to you isn't about, he didn't win or he didn't do that. That has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is this man who you said is, and just even covering him lying in the, he campaigned on repealing and replacing Obamacare, said he had concepts of a plan, and now you're saying that he's softening. No, he lied. We can say that he lied in the campaign. That's not what he's doing. He changed his opinion. We attacked Kamala Harris for saying something different 4 years ago, but now we're saying that he's softening. No, he just lied in the campaign. He's not doing these things.
Jacoby, they accept him for lying. They have no problem with it.
Maybe that's just a new way of politics. You've got to lie to,
What I'm telling you is I understand that. But we cannot just.
Happy New Year, everybody! I'll be back tomorrow. Sorry I have to go early. I'll be in touch. Thank you.
All right, see y'all later and everything. Hey, just another quick question, and this is kind of direction in that same direction, but slightly pivoted and everything. I was just wondering because Jimmy Carter and y'all both have mentioned Jimmy Carter several times on this show, lived to be 100 years old and everything like that. And I know that there are people on this panel that are older than I am. There are people on this panel that are younger than I am, but there are definitely this notion that there are people that are living longer and everything. As a matter of fact, a soccer-loving nun from Brazil is now the world's oldest person, as he just recently was about to turn 117 and everything like that. So I just wonder how many of us on the panel are hoping to live to be into their hundreds or something like that, and all along those lines, or is that just something that is only there for a select few?
Well, you can hope, but only I think less than 1% of everybody makes it to 100, but that will be changing, and AI will be a part of that in finding, helping. Even the UN, which is a fairly conservative in its predictions, says in developed countries the average lifespan will go to 100 within, at least Jatovi's lifespan. And AGI, advanced or artificial general intelligence, it's going to be a huge industry. Most people, you'd pay $100,000 a year for every extra year of healthy life it would give you, right?
So you've also got to look into, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to start living even longer because not only with with AI, everything else, you've also got nanobots that are there as well. And that nanotechnology is actually being utilized even now to go after cancer cells. So, and even I think it's somewhere overseas in Asia, they've just found a way to reverse cancer cells back to normal cells. So there's that treatment. So cancer right now is going to be one of our biggest hurdles to overcome, especially with the way with the radiation that comes from the sun just itself. And so there's just, and as soon as we are able to get past that, then you've got space travel, which space travel, if you look at space travel, will never really happen in our lifetime because we'll never see it. Because if you travel away from space, go light speed, the people that leave will never make it back in time. So we got to figure out time travel as well.
Time travel is
there's a hard limit to human lifespan, which is 120. Nobody lives past 120. We're just not our cells aren't programmed to keep going that long, but eventually we'll bust that limit, and it will, and it'll start with billionaires who will, get to live indefinitely, and then it'll filter down to the rest of us. But it's coming. And I'm hoping it comes faster than, with AGI.
But it's one important thing. It's not just how many years you can last. It's a quality of life that you have. And if I would feel that when I will be, say, 85, that I cannot travel unassisted, and I will not be able to lead a normal life as I do now still, I don't know if I will cherish this another 15 years or even 20 years of sub-existence. I'm not sure that it will make me very happy.
There's a thing in longevity called falling off the table, which is what you want to do is healthy, dead. You want to, if you're going to make it to 110, you want to look like a pretty good 70-year-old until you're 108, and then you want to go everything to fail at once and be dead. You want to be healthy for as long as possible and then gone. And tech is going to help with that too.
That makes a lot of sense.
Well, the funny thing, also you've got the Ponce de Leon with the altered carbon that's coming, Rick. You know that.
Well,
we're going to start downloading
subconscious. So one problem is how to live as long and as healthily as possible in your body. And then there's a parallel problem of moving your brain out of your body, like putting nanobots in your brain. They trace all the connections among the dendrites of your brain cells, which I think is where your memories and your personality live. And they make a map of your brain, then they reconstruct that someplace else, and you become like this, basically the Simpsons thing, which is a head in a bottle on a robot body, so all that stuff is, coming in the next 100 years.
I think people need to evaluate, can you afford to live to 120? Is your quality of life below standard or above standard, or is it in the middle?
There's a thing with that too, which is if you live in virtual space, which right now sucks. But if you live in the metaverse will keep getting better. And
that's Ready Player One.
Right. And it'll probably be cheaper to live in the metaverse than to live as flesh and blood. How do you
literally live in the metaverse other than putting a headset on your eyes and
that's one way.
In that chair and you evolve in the metaverse? I mean, to me, that you physically lost touch, and talking about cancer, it's the foods that they're pumping in us. They have foods, our fresh foods in America are now injected with vaccines. They really are. I mean, they've been trying to pass a law that says that they have to identify which ones have the vaccines in them and not. And the Senate said, no, we're not going to do that. So our foods are killing us. I've looked at everything recently, just looking at labels and looking at what is in the fresh market and how expensive it is to buy the foods that can help you. I read an article about cancer. They said that if your body's hungry, like if you kind of let it go hungry a little bit every once in a while, it will eat the cancer cells, literally eat them. So There's a lot of research
There's-
out there that we're not allowing and permitting through. Look at something else that's up and rising that is really disturbing me. RSV. That wasn't a problem in my lifetime and with my child's. Now every parent out there is scared to death of their baby getting RSV, and all the babies are getting RSV. And if you go back to an article in some articles in the AA magazine and National Geographic, where they had done a lot of research on this, I think it was intentionally pushed on us. And look at vaping. What is vaping doing to people? Have you read some of the problems with the lungs?
Yeah, it cooks your lungs pretty good.
Horrible.
But it's a
They should
race
ban it.
between the new stuff that kills us and the new stuff that saves us.
So it's all about science
Harmon.
and studies, and it's all about research. For example, if we talk about the foods, yes, there are problems with our foods, but our foods are better than our foods actually are better than way back when. This is something I think Neil deGrasse Tyson even talked about.
Nothing is better than farm grown. I'm
But
sorry.
hold on. Where right now there's an outbreak of what is it, listeria or one of the other, and that's coming from what RFK is talking about the raw milk and this and that, and that's causing an outbreak. If you take our foods now, we live longer, but our foods now, yes, are killing us. So there are ways to improve, and that's just a matter of research and trying to figure out what is harmful. For example, they just released a study talking about how there's a link between alcohol and cancer.
Yeah.
Right?
So
they want to put a warning on alcohol now.
Yeah. So
Why
no,
don't
but
we
the
just
thing is-
ban it? Why don't we ban it like we
We
do?
tried that in
everything
the
else?
1920s. It was
Yeah,
a
that's
disaster.
prohibition. But the thing is, we've got to. It's all about education and research. I mean, the studies that we had way back in the 1960s are different from the studies that we have in 2024 because there's more people, there's more things to look at, there's nature and nurture that's different now than it was before. It's just a matter of we have to do research and be able to trust the science. But right now we're at a position where we're not trying to trust the science. We're always saying, well, they're just wrong because, back in 1920, they used leeches and that was safe.
Well,
But,
you know,
all right, but
there
look
is
at
a
look at how
balance.
food screws us up. In the 70s, if you're old enough to remember the 70s, everybody was skinny. Nobody had an ass. It was the decade of flat asses. And nobody wore a bra. Nobody had boobs. Nobody had a front or a back. Now,
Biggie.
This is why you need that
74%
VPN.
Now, 74% of adult Americans are overweight, and it happened because of food, largely because food got super cheap, super delicious, super bad for you. The Baconator, these fast food stack sandwiches that have 3,000 calories. But Ozempic, now we have Ozempic, and that's a technological fix. A pill that makes you eat less, basically, without going crazy. And
Think about how many studies we've had on sugar, and think about how much the cheap food has so much sugar in it. But that goes into the studies and finding out, okay, well, that sugar shouldn't be there. But then you got the lobbyists that come in and say, well, we need to make this cheap food to make it affordable for these poor people. And so the poor people buy it up.
Food.
But hold on a second. Definitely not everybody can afford or has the places to grow their own food. I like your idea, but some people are in those food deserts and they're in places that are confined that they can't necessarily grow a garden and everything. So it doesn't work for everybody, Kim, even though I like where you're going in that ocean and everything. The other thing is, Rick, I got to disagree with you slightly because I remember some of the movies from the 70s, including some of the blaxploitation movies, and there were some people that had some hips and had some other parts of the body as well. So I have to disagree with you on this notion that there were not some boxing people in the 70s.
So
okay, sure, but look at Charlie's Angels.
Rick, what we've just found out is we know why Mark watched Blackula.
Yeah, well,
watch Shaft, watch a number of those things. I was going to come back to nature and
wait. Let's go back. What Charlie's Angels were supposed to be the sexiest women of the 70s. None of Charlie's Angels had butts, All of them skipped bras because they had no boobs. It was America was doing a lot of cocaine, so they were skinny.
Sarah
They
had
were
some of
jogging.
those categories you're talking about.
They were roller skating. It was a skinny ass time dominated by buttless blonde ladies. But I want to go to food for a second.
Real quick, Rick, we did a lot for all the 5 men on the show. Let's talk about them handsome men that were there at that time. David Hasselhoff, he was a sexy man. Got to throw some out there for the women because we do have a lady on the show. So we got to talk about how David Hasselhoff was the man. We had Shaft was cool. We also had Bruce Lee, who was always cut and clean. Chuck Norris was the man.
Chuck Norris, he's still rocking it. Chuck Norris is still kicking it.
Yeah, Bruce Lee had like 4% body fat. He was ripped to shreds. And
even Arnold Schwarzenegger and a number of others.
Schwarzenegger brought us weightlifting. Before Schwarzenegger, bodybuilding was considered gay. He made it okay for straight America to lift weights and get big biceps.
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman was another one.
Okay, all right, but wait, I want to talk about the food. All right, so we can make food better, or we can just fix the problems caused by bad food. You have 60 million Americans on metformin, a diabetes drug that helps your body use insulin more efficiently. Great freaking drug. And few side effects. Helps with cancer, helps with diabetes. Great drug. Ozempic, few side effects. It's actually Ozempic's actually been out there for like a decade. It's just people have learned that it's going to help you lose weight for the Golden Globes or the Emmys or whatever.
We just
it has a cool jingle.
We just had to go to those yesterday and everything, and they had that lady that was the host. I was going to come back to Nature and Nurture as we're getting ready to wind down and everything like that, because I have some good news for Kim and everything, because one of the stories that I love is when you hear about things that are positive in Mother Nature that surprise you. And apparently in the African continent but in the country of Zimbabwe, there was a young boy, literally 7 years old, that had been lost for days in the jungles, literally in the jungles with the lions and the elephants and all the other animals and everything, and they found him after he had survived 5 days in the jungle. So I'm thinking the lions were basically like, that does not look like food, and he doesn't look like one of us, so we're just going to like chill and everything. Because like I said, there's a lot of folks that are amazed that this boy actually managed to live 5 days in the jungle and everything. So any thoughts around this? Because I'm thinking that the lions and some of the lion women were probably like,
right. So here's what you do, like with that Moo Dang or whatever that baby hippo's name is. Very cute, but very fighty. Hippos are super dangerous. Moo Dang's going to grow up to be somebody that if you look at him wrong, he's going to kill. He's just with powerful jaws. He'll kill you. We need to put chips in cute animals' heads. Elon Musk is working on brain chips. We need to chip animals to make them safe and adorable, so Moo Dang can grow up to be just a very friendly hippo.
So are we going to chip the 70-year-old African kids and everything, so they don't get lost going into the jungle?
You chip lions, so that you put knowledge chips in their heads, so they understand that if they come to a certain place in the day, somebody will throw meat at them, and they don't need to bite tourists.
Well, the thing is, lions and tigers and bears are all fine. It's hippos, they're mean creatures, boy. They
kill more than any other large animal.
Any other animal. But the thing is, it's people that are the stupid ones. Why are you gonna walk out with a camera and get out of your car in this wild lion? Have you seen? Because there are so many videos of just walking out there with your camera trying to take a picture with a lion, like it's this cute cuddly thing, and when your head gets bitten off, you get mad that your head is bitten off. No, you're dumb.
Don't feed the bears. The biggest problem in the mountains is people go, oh, he's so cute, I'm gonna go pet him, or the baby bears. No. Mama bear gonna rip your head off.
Just really quickly, because we only got a minute to go. How do you lose a 7-year-old? You had kids, so how do you lose a 7-year-old for 5 days in the jungle? That's what I'm saying.
Here's all you do.
How many kids do they have?
You put chips in. You put chips in safari animals' heads, and that inform them. Don't eat the people. When you see people, stand up on your hind legs, wave at the camera, and you will get treats.
Bear
And
399.
lions are
Um,
lazy. Lions sleep like 16.
Bear
Lions don't want to
399.
work hard. If you
So-
let
Well-
lions know that they can
well-
get treats.
So
We
rule
gotta
number
correct
one,
that.
I would
It's
never
actually-
leave home without tagging my kids. Everybody tags their suitcase, their briefcase, their purse, their glasses.
Mm.
I would never leave home without tagging my kids. I wouldn't even walk out the door to the grocery store without tagging my kids today.
This
Wouldn't do it.
just to correct something with Rick on this, and this is a big shout out to the ladies. It's actually the king of the beasts that is
Yeah,
the
boy
laziest
lion.
creature on the planet, the male lion. The female lions are the actual ones that go and do all the hunting and everything else.
That's
Yeah,
right.
but yeah, male lions are super lazy. But if you gave them a chip that let them know if you just wave at the people will throw freaking meat at you. That works for everybody.
For sure,
That'd be
man. Is that how we
Madagascar.
get- is that good?
I think I'm gonna go dress in a bear
All
suit.
right. All right. See you tomorrow.
Hey,
Everyone
Yeah.
have a blessed day. We look forward to seeing you next tomorrow. Take care.